Simply put, typography is the art of working with type, by selecting the style and composing it in a way that is appealing and easy to consume by the viewer. It's another one of the fundamental components of graphic design, and you will have to learn the essential typographic terms and conventions. Typography, just like the rest of graphic design, has been evolving over centuries and has developed its own language that is still in use today in our digital world. In this topic, we will be going over the essentials, and you can learn more as you progress. We will begin with some of the most basic terms, some of which you might already be familiar with. Each word consists of characters, or also known as glyphs. The word that is displayed on your screen right now consists of one uppercase glyph and three lowercase glyphs. Type sits over a line called baseline. That line is usually invisible unless selected to be displayed in your production program. Above the baseline is located the so-called mean line, which is used to determine the height relationship between lower and uppercase characters. There are more lines that are used for the construction of type, but they are used by the type designer when creating the typeface, and are too in-depth for this introduction. Other than these technicalities, type's visual appearance can be determined by a typeface, also commonly referred to as font. Furthermore, the style of the font can also be changed. For example, Helvetica typeface could consist of 4 styles: regular, oblique, bold, and oblique bold. Whether or not a typeface has a style, it is solely dependent on the creator of it, so it is common to find single fonts with no extra styles attached to them. Further in this course, you will get to work with type and experience the workflow in Adobe Photoshop for yourself. Until then, we can go over some guidelines that you can work to when working with type. Now, these are not strict rules for every design, as every design is supposed to be original, but are generally followed in day-to-day work. One such rule is that headlines should always be large and located at the same place for every page. Usually that is at the top of the page, but could also be placed in an unconventional way for creative effect. It all boils down to what you're working on. For example, when working on magazines, you're not bound by strict rules and have much more creative freedom. But you should never forget that the main point of a headline is to inform and entice the consumer to continue reading the rest of the text. Another really good rule is to limit the number of typefaces used throughout your project. Sticking to 2 at max 3 typefaces is a good practice that will ensure that your design is not too chaotic and is in harmony. This rule, of course, has an exception when working on posters and magazines, or when trying to do something specifically creative. You could always use a typeface that has many styles inside of it and create amazing designs with just it. If you feel like you need different typefaces to establish hierarchy, try using different weights of the same typeface. I guarantee that your design will end up much cleaner, and that would help you to become more creative with your type. Readability is the last rule that you should apply to every design you work on. It is very important that you're mindful of the spacing, alignment, and size of the type. Having big gaps between words or letters could result in bad experience for the viewer. Cramming text together with small spaces could also result in loss of readability. And finally, you want to avoid having too many characters on a single row of text. This is why newspapers and other text-heavy designs are split into columns. Taking care of the eye transit of your reader is crucial, as having to jump gaps that are too big result in eye strain, which in turn could force a reader to quit without finishing the text. And finally, as I said before, these are not strict rules, but are good practices that will help you in your work. Then again, every great and memorable design came from someone deciding to break the standard and create something new and sometimes outrageous for its time. So feel free to experiment and follow your creativity.